Hello, my friends. Your boy Garrett J. White, the founder of Wake Up Warrior and co-host.
It's cold in here.
It's getting cold. Would you like my jacket?
No, I'm okay.
You would not like my jacket? Do you want me to turn off the air conditioning for the show?
No,
it got
fine.
super hot on the last show.
Okay, let's, because you're in a jacket and I'm in a t-shirt.
Yep. Do you want me to turn it off? Yeah, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to you. You get us started, and I'll go turn off the air.
Okay.
So welcome, everyone, to the show this week.
Okay, welcome to the Date Your Wife podcast. I'm Danielle, co-host with my husband, Garrett White, and we are just two crazy married people trying to figure out life. And so we come to you guys every week, and we share the topic of 4 key points, and today's topic is all about communication. And my husband always tells me I am a direct person, but I always find spicy, but overall
let's not dance around this. You can get very spicy.
I'm a Taurus, so Taurus are actually like really kind of sweet people, but then if you set them off, like, get out of the fucking way.
They go off.
Yeah, but
that's all right.
That's okay. But our topic is on communication.
The topic is communication.
And I was just like stating how like when women are super direct with their communication, they're often thought as being kind of bitchy, but I don't think I'm bitchy. And even when I communicate it, I think I even sound nice. In fact, you know what I like doing a lot is I like, instead of texting people, because I feel like stuff always gets lost in text translation.
You send audios.
I always send audios, and my team and everybody would think it was so weird. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm usually driving or doing something, or I'm short on time. It's faster for me, and I feel like I can directly communicate something.
Always.
There's
okay,
there's
continue.
Being direct in like talking about how you feel and that kind of things. But then there's also the direct, which I call like the jab. And yes. I'm still guilty of it. I'm not going to like say I don't do this anymore. It depends on my mood, honestly. But there's like this indirect jab that I think men and women do. I think women get a lot of shit for it, but I know that men and women do it, where it's like you kind of say something like a little bit passive aggressively, and it's just like grr. Yep. And it's like I always think back to like if you don't have something nice to say, don't say something at all. So I think in marriage and communication, you have to be like tactful in what you say and how you say it. And I don't know, I always try to go back to, okay, like if we were dating, would I say this? No, because I'd sound like a...
But you had to reel it in about me. Be straight with me. Let's go. I can take it. I can take it.
What? Sometimes like
I can take it.
Sometimes you'll be working. I'm like, God, what the fuck? Like, stop. It's Sunday. And I want to be like pissed, and I want to be pissed, and I want to like be like, well, why don't you just do this, this, and this, and this, and this? And women, I think, tend to be like, well, just da 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 da. They give you like a checklist of things that you can do to fix your problems. Like we know exactly what's going on in your business.
Yes.
And I don't. And so instead, I find myself stepping back into the shoes and be like in the listening mode, like, okay, like, oh, how is that going with Warrior? What a dickhead. Tell me what happened. When really I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'll be like listening to the conversation. I'm like, here's what you really should do. I'm like, come on, let's do it.
Okay. So, like, we're gonna start this game of direct communication with a little story.
Oh.
This morning I had a live stream show that I do called The Daily Fuel inside of the Wake Up Warrior Brotherhood. And for those who are not familiar with this, you can head to warriorbook.com and learn more about Wake Up Warrior and what we're all about inside of an amazing media experience known as the King's Kit. 30-day process, and we'll ship you some books and some material and let you experience that with a couple thousand men live with us inside of our networks for 30 days and see how you feel about it. But this morning, I got done with that training, and I went downstairs and made myself a green smoothie. And after making myself a green smoothie, I came back upstairs, and my wife asked me a question.
I was just being very direct.
And you asked me the direct question. The direct question was, did you read my
text?
And then I looked amazing. I never get the point I want this text.
I know. It was a good text. But
they want this text.
The reason I sent this text is I feel like we normally go out on the weekend, and this weekend we didn't have a babysitter. And it's so funny, like when we don't get our date nights, sometimes I feel like
that's right.
A little bit of like a rift. Like I'm like, oh my God, like a rift or a drift or whatever.
It?
Like
yeah.
And it's not like we're like angry at each other and we're like totally cool, but I'm just like, ooh, if this stretches out even longer, it could get to this weird resentful place where you could be like, how's your day? I'm like, fuck you, how's your day? Like, and so because I don't want to get to that place.
That's true. I did not think about the fact that Saturday night we got ambushed and our babysitter got sick.
So even though like things were good and we were both pretty focused with work today and shit, it's Monday and like we got to get stuff done, I knew that like 2 days later, this relationship is in a rift. Anything can set you off, whereas like you have direct communication, clear communication, you have sex, like things, you could be pissed at work and I could say something and you could reframe it and say, I'm not mad at you, but this is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. But if there's no communication and there's no sex and I'm like, what's going on? You could blow up on me or I could blow up on you.
Yes.
So it's important to like not let that drift go too far. And so this morning I was like sitting there and we're getting ready to come here actually and do the podcast. And I was like feeling like that way. And you know what's funny? I'm just going to say.
All right,
I was like getting ready totally naked and you walked by and didn't even notice me. And I was like, what the fuck? That never happens. So I was like, I don't know. And that's when I was like, how? I was like trying to be like flirty. And I was like, I got nothing. So I just text sex.
I was focused. And you know what ends up happening
and
is
you know
like.
what I realized? I was like, there's so many focused men. Like, there's times where you could be like, I'm open for business. And like, they don't even see it because they're so focused. So I was like, oh, I can appreciate being direct. So I said sex. And then your mind immediately went there. So then when you did come upstairs and I was standing there naked, you were like, you noticed me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes we don't get into that place because we're just so busy and focused with what we feel like we need to be about. But in the past, that was not our pattern. Our pattern was not to communicate directly with each other. We would do something else. What would we do?
There gets to this place, too, where you can sense that drift or that awkwardness. And sometimes there's no other way to go about it than to just be direct. And if someone says, like, a girl will be like, well, I wasn't getting paid attention to or I wasn't getting noticed. Well, perhaps you should work on being more direct because I can promise you that guys will probably, I mean, I don't, but I feel like
guys will respond.
You can respond, yeah.
Guys will respond.
Sometimes you just have to be a little bit more direct. And if I'm being honest, sometimes I wish you were more direct with me.
About sex?
Well, just anytime. Like there's times like
Give me an example. I'm ready to hear this. Give it to me. Okay.
Last night I put the kids to bed and you were downstairs talking to Parker. I had been at where did I go?
You were at Knott's Berry Farm all day long on the amusement park with Bailey.
I was just like feeling kind of sick from the rides and I was tired. I was like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
So I put the kids to bed. You were downstairs talking to Parker and I didn't want to be like, Parker, can you leave? We want to have sex now. And so and then you went into your old pattern where you're like, oh, she's in bed, whatever.
You didn't say anything to me.
I did say.
You did not.
I did too. I said something. I said,
you
I
said
don't know
nothing.
what I said. I guarantee fucking to you I said something.
No, because I came upstairs and then I had to put the other girls to bed.
No, I asked you something. I said something and you're like, yeah, and you responded to me. And
I did.
You didn't have to put the girls to bed. I put them in bed.
You put the girls to bed?
And I was so pissed that you went in there and I was like, the fucker went in there and I just put him in bed. And now they're going to like wake back up and do stories or something.
I don't know. All I know is I went in there and I was talking to the kids and then I ended up back in the bedroom after I talked to the girls.
My point was, I know, and my point was being like, sometimes I feel like you'll be like, oh, she's in bed, blah, blah, and then you don't.
I gotta be. I mean, on the topic of honesty here, and we're going there. Like, here's the deal. Like, if I sent you a text on a Monday, with sex and a question mark, as you were getting ready to go somewhere, I mean, how are you going to take this text? Because I have for guys.
I don't think that
for
works.
Guys, this cannot. This what is the game? Because I can't. I mean, if I sent you text sex with a question mark every time I was thinking about it, directly asking, I'd just buy a service like Call Loop with texting and just have it send it to you every 15 minutes all day. So what is a guy to do?
I get it. You're thinking about sex once again. Thank you. Thank you for being direct. It's.
I've got a story. My story is once she is face down in the pillow, like at that moment, and the dog is curled up at her feet, that I am now encroaching into the evil layer of insanity.
Sometimes I'm not asleep, but I'm so.
But I cannot tell when you are or not, for you look like a dead.
I'm giving you the tricks, okay? If I lay there and you poke me, and the bear doesn't move, let the bear go to sleep. Don't poke the bear. If you poke me, and
I poke you,
and if I just
doesn't matter what I use to poke you with.
Don't poke me with that. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Don't poke me. Actually, don't poke me. Just gently.
So the poking is off limits.
What if you just like, good night, babe.
Okay.
Love you. Like
all right, a little squeeze.
And not an ass
squeeze. A little squeeze. Not an ass squeeze.
That's
not
a
a poke.
No-no.
Not a poke.
That's
not an
no-no.
ass squeeze. What about an ass rub?
No.
What about a slightly under the sweatpants on your left ass cheek?
Oh my God! When you do that, we want to punch you in the dick.
This is what we're hoping for.
This show went. You do this. Ask yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Like I.
What would I want?
I feel like if you were dating, you might like go to the small of the back.
Okay.
And then if she's open to it, then you go down to the ass. You don't go straight for the ass ever.
Okay.
So it's just more of like.
So all right. So if I came in then last night, how would I have done this differently then?
Well, you go in your closet and fuck around for like 15 minutes. I don't know what
I
you're doing.
brush my teeth. I wash my face. I get undressed. I lay my stuff out for the morning.
I'm always like,
because I go in
there.
But I go in there knowing that you're in comatose mode. But I'm obviously not knowing.
You the signals. If I talk to you when you come in,
I don't remember you talking to me.
I know, but I'm telling you signals now. I'm communicating a message.
I appreciate
right
it.
now.
Keep continuing.
If you
talk
come in and you say, good night, babe, and I respond if I talk.
This is good news.
This is good news.
Okay.
There's still some light.
In both moments, you're actually awake, but in one moment, you're pretending to be asleep, and the other moment, you are speaking, simply saying, the bear is horny.
Oh, my God. If I say nothing, you're shit out of luck.
Okay.
If I say, yeah, babe, if as long as I'm not dead, I'm...
As long as you're not dead, you're good to go.
I am conscious and I respond,
yes,
that means I'm like, I am waiting for you, and you have 5 minutes to brush your teeth.
And it usually takes me 10.
I don't know why it takes you. What are you doing? Are you giving yourself a facial?
No, I don't either. I just wash my face. I brush my teeth. I do my thing. I handle my denture. I got like a denture life going on over here.
That's your story and your excuse.
And then I end up looking at my whiteboard.
Let me tell you what you're really doing.
I'm looking at emails, sending messages.
You're like, oh, again. And then you can wake up and be like, well, you passed out last night. And I'm like, I was not asleep. So I'm just giving you your signal.
Okay, fair enough. So what I'm hearing, let me feed back to you what I'm hearing so that I make sure that I'm clear about what you're communicating to me. So the reality is when I come to bed, and you are lying in the bed, which 99 out of 100 nights you are lying in the bed before I am lying in the bed. You're lying in the bed. The dog is at your feet. You're lying in the bed, usually one leg out of the blankets with your face stuffed into your favorite soft pillow. My first approach then at nighttime is to simply approach and engage the bear with a squeeze on the right shoulder.
Yeah.
If the squeeze turns into any sort of noise at any level, or
no, that's a no.
Or yes. Or,
no.
Babe, come to bed.
It has to
or
be
anything.
It has to be at least 3 clear words. So if it's a gurgle or a snore, no.
So if there's 3 clear words or less or more, then this is a signal to go. All right, so what should be my next move?
Your next move is you have 3 minutes to brush your teeth.
And then?
If you take 10 and you choose to look at your whiteboards, you chose your whiteboards over me.
That's true. But see, I'm fair enough. I'm accepting this.
Yeah.
So, all right, so.
Sometimes I think you like to choose your whiteboards, and then you can wake up the next morning and fall victim like, well, she fell asleep. Ooh. I'm just like being fucking real right now. Women want attention, okay?
Oh, you got me on that one, because there are sometimes I'll look at the whiteboard and I'm like, well, she went to bed. Serves her right. I'm going to look at my whiteboards and build some marketing systems at nighttime.
Guys. Like, they get off in their own work. They love it. They're successful. That's great. That's why we married you. That's why I'm with you. Like we appreciate that. And so sometimes we have to be direct and naked at the same time.
Yes.
But sometimes we're as naked. You're just going to have to read between the lines.
I'm going to have to be a little more direct with my approach.
Yes.
Listen, I'll come in with scanning you like the Predator movie. I'll be like, my brain will be like, is the bear sleeping? Yes. Do you know for sure? No. What must I do?
No.
Engage the bear.
No, you have to ask
jiggle
yourself.
And squeeze her shoulder. Do not
No,
poke her with
I
anything.
need you
No
to ask
item of your
yourself.
body may poke her.
No, listen. I need you to ask yourself in that moment.
Okay.
Do I want to make love to my whiteboards, or do I want to make love to my wife? Either one, I don't care, but I don't want to wake up the next morning and you tell me you fell asleep last night. Like, just be clear and be like, hey, babe, I love you. Tonight, I want to make love to my whiteboards. Just give me a signal so I know. Can I fall asleep, or am I in this weird thing of like,
you know what I'll do?
It's taking him 10 minutes to brush his teeth.
Exactly.
Like,
what I'll do is I'll squeeze you, and then if you say you're down, I'll be like, I appreciate you waking up and making yourself available, but
I'll just hang out the left boob.
Tonight I am making love to the whiteboards. I think this has been a great and a not so great thing. There's whiteboards in my room.
That would be so rude.
It would be rude.
If you were like, babe, tonight I'm just going to go to my whiteboards, I'd be like...
I think that's how I would feel if the bear was going to sleep.
You know what? I think I would be like, if I was really
you would definitely aggressily come after me.
Like, oh, fuck, no,
you'd be like, yeah, and then I would then you would start this thing where you'd start attacking the door naked, and I would think it was super fun. And I'm like, my wife's fighting me right now in my whiteboard room.
But then there's going to be also times where I'm going to be
like,
okay,
good.
Cool. So. Anyway.
That's almost like, it's like we're getting to the end of an orgasm, like right with the way this conversation goes. Like a moment of like,
It was good. I think we should have a smoke and move on.
Okay.
All right, where are we going with today's show?
Okay, so we're halfway through today's show, and we've gotten somewhere, which is this direct communication, which is a message. Now, I have a feeling inside of this that there are some lessons we can learn from today's conversation, which we're going to discuss right now. Which is number one, we do not communicate directly because of stories that we have in our minds.
Yeah.
So I have a story about you at nighttime. It's a very simple story. When you are asleep in the bed and you're in bed. And like you look unconscious in the bed, my mind immediately goes to, yep, store is closed for business. So then I'm like, which is a catch-22 because I also feel like I need to support and want to support my kids and would be all up with my children at nighttime, and then at the same time want to be with you, and so it becomes kind of this weird juggling match before. And there are moments.
You should just be more selfish.
All right, tell me more about this.
Well, I don't know. I think in the end, like if you know it's gonna like benefit you,
yes,
which obviously benefit your relationship, sometimes you have to not fall into those stories and just be like, okay, well, my kids are good, or I'm going to say goodnight real quick, and then just come to me and be like, hey, are you awake? Are you sleepy? Where you at? You know what I mean? I don't know. They think that there's.
I think it could be significantly more direct with you on that. I feel like we're in a healthy place,
but let me just touch base on
okay.
this, because direct does not mean, like, I will tell you, and every girl hates this. Direct does not mean a direct ass grab. Like, it just doesn't.
Guys love that.
Guys love that.
The ass grab.
At times
we
that's
do.
funny, but when
it's not even funny to us. We literally just love it.
I know. Go into it when you're halfway through sex. Like, when you're halfway through sex, you can grab the ass all you want.
Yes, you can.
If you just come in and you're like, yeah, it's mine, we don't like it.
No
We're
good.
turned off. I have never met a girl that was like, oh yeah, babe, do it again. Like, that was great. Like, it's, that does nothing for us. So, like, check yourself with that.
Okay, so then there's a less direct approach like that. There's a direct indirect approach, which is the conversation through connection. But it's being able to also speak it. You know, one of the problems was I think I got myself into a big, huge trap because I couldn't even acknowledge to myself, let alone have a conversation with you about the fact that sex was important to me. So I was always indirect with things and always kind of hoping that things would work out instead of directly speaking to them. I used to do the same thing in business too, where I would kind of hope that things would work out. I would just be tons of energy and then hope that things would work out. And then I recognized that was not a business strategy. That was not a business plan. And then here 9-10 years ago, I finally got myself directed into the way I needed to go in business. And in the last 7-8 years, we've been able to put things back together with the direct focus. But our marriage in the last 2 years sexually has gotten a lot better too.
I think, too, I kind of started to understand in order to get what I wanted, like, we both had to feel wanted. And
in order to get what I wanted, we both had to feel wanted.
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement right there.
Yes.
In order to get what we both want, in order to get what I wanted,
we both
had to get what we wanted.
Yeah.
Or both had, say it one more time. In order to get what I wanted, we both had to feel wanted.
Yes.
Okay, talk to me a little bit more about this.
So meaning, like, girls want attention. Girls, like, want sex, but I don't think it's as sexual for them. You know what I mean? It's more, I honestly think.
Is it just feeling wanted?
It's like feeling wanted, having that attention, having that validation, being like, yep, like, my man's into me, like, whatever it is. Like, honestly, and I speak with a lot of, this feels like it turns into the sex show, but even when I'll talk to a lot of women, I'm like, do you have an orgasm every time? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, do you enjoy it? And they're like, yeah, it's cool. Like, I'm glad that my man's happy and whatnot. And so I'm realizing, like, there's this element of, like, women are like, oh, I don't think a lot of women probably think about sex as often as men do. But if you realize in order to kind of, like, I don't know, for me, I just seem like the energy around our relationship and even within our family is better when it's happened more frequently, and it doesn't always have to be, like, I don't know. It can be like little things like this morning. Do you know what I mean? And so for me to get to that place, it almost like sets up the week. It's kind of like you set up your day, like you do the core 4 and all that stuff in your business. And it's like you set up your day, like you wake up, you eat a good breakfast, you work out. Like you have your checklist of things that you do in the morning to set yourself up for an amazing day. And you can also do that inside of a relationship. And it could be a daily thing. It could be something that is a weekly thing. Like for us, it's like, okay, we probably want to have sex, consistently through the week, or whatever is like your number that you feel like keeps you connected. That's like setting your marriage up for having more success. And so I think we go into our day and we set our day up for success, but we can also set up our relationship up for success. And in doing so, that can impact so many other areas of our life, including the example that I believe we set for our children.
Well, I think part of the conversation I watch happen for us is we talk directly with each other, and we do it in front of our children too. That direct communication also spills over into the direct communication with our children. Now that creates a whole bunch of issues sometimes, which is our kids having a very strong opinion about things using very powerful language, just like their parents do, directly with us. But direct communication itself is something I used to steer away from in marriage because I particularly around the topic of sex, because I just did not know how to get over my stories of feeling rejected. I didn't know how to get over my stories and my pain of feeling like just like so fucked up about it. It's like being being a dog that's been left outside without food for a long time. And it was just like timid and interesting and weird. And as I came to collide with myself on these stories, and I started to collide with my own energy and my own issues around it, things started opening up for both of us. But it was both of us. Like, our direct communication has not been there like the way it is now. Like, it has taken us years to get to a place where we could actually start communicating directly what we wanted, and also be able to submit to the fact that there were other things that our partner wanted that maybe we didn't want.
Right.
And in doing them actually helped us get what we wanted.
I'm just going to ask you a direct question right now.
Sure.
Like, the more powerful you become in business as a man, do you feel like you're kind of like, do you feel like, I'm sure you recognize this at some point, but I'm thinking, like, for listeners out there, I think if you have a lot of success, you kind of go into it like, well, I don't need to give in the relationship. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like a super powerful, successful person. Like, you can just, you're either with me or you're not. Does that make sense? So I'm asking, is there this element of power with success that you just think that you don't have to cross the line? Does that happen? Or
I think with increasing power, well, you got to look at it like women typically control the sex card. And I'm not saying always, but men typically control the money card. And again, there are exceptions to both sides of that. So don't be the dick who's listening and go, oh my God, that's not what it is. I realize I'm generalizing here. But inside of that, as a man rising success and power, he does start to get to a place, and I have gotten to a place over the last 5-6 years where you get to a place where you're like, listen, man, I'm pulling my end of the game here. Like, you better level the fuck up. Like, there's a story that starts to build inside of that power, because linked up to power is sexuality and procreation.
I'm just thinking of even situations in our marriage, like when you felt like you were gaining more power, and I was kind of like, well, fuck you, like, my needs are not being met, and so it had to take both of us to choose that.
Yes.
And ultimately, as you rose in power and I rose in power in business, we had to come to this place where we would submit for one another.
Well, and that submission for each other, like that, I mean, that both of us could see. Like, at least in my experience, I could see that there was more power in us being together and more power of us being connected than there was us individually being isolated in power. And when I could see that, like, I was even having that thought as I was walking this morning. I was literally just like thinking that this morning, and I was thinking about if I disassembled, like, I don't even know how I got on the thought. I was like, what is the role that my wife has played in my life? And I started disassembling my entire reality, business-wise, where we live, like my surfing.
Because you were like, God, I want to have sex. Why am I feeling disconnected?
It probably was. I was on my walk and talk at 4:30 this morning by myself. And I was sitting there having those thoughts about it, and then thinking, literally my entire life right now, yes, I'm a committed man. Yes, I work my ass off. But inside of that, like, without Danielle, like, I do not even have close to what I have right now. And I think a lot of powerful men forget what it is they be with a woman who supported them while they were in the rise.
Right.
This is why, but very few couples stay together. Like, do you recognize this is the case? Very few stay together on that rise.
I would imagine, like, you feel like you're supporting your man in the rise, and you're just thinking, like, I can say from my perspective, you're like, it's fine, I'll just support him, and hopefully he'll see it. And then there's times, again, I'm not trying to, like, point anyone out. Like, it happened with us, where I was like, what the fuck? Like, I feel like I've supported you, and now you're, like, thinking you're just, like, all high and mighty type of thing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you got to reel it in. And I think, I don't know what happened, but I think it took both
There was a combination of both. I think it was like me kind of getting to a place where I was like, and the issue for me was always sex. I was like, sex has to level the fuck up. Like, we've got to change, like, what's going on for us in this. And you, at the same time, were saying, oh, no, come on, dickhead. You think that now, all of a sudden, inside of this, you think that somehow now, well, you're just going to replace me? I mean, we went to some pretty intense wars over this, but it required a submission. It required appreciation from me and appreciation from you for each other. At least that was my experience of it. There was an appreciation that entered and a respect that entered our relationship, where we both realized, listen, why are we torturing ourselves by withholding from the other person?
Right.
Was this your experience too?
Yeah, I feel like when I got to this place where I was like, literally, I was like, oh, you fucker, you think you're going to go replace me? Like, I don't need you just like you don't need me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, I like took a step back and I just kind of focused and started working on me. And then you started working on you. And then it was like we kind of came back in, but we both had to choose in. And with it choosing in, we both had to like submit in certain areas.
Yeah.
And like kind of cross the line in certain areas. And it just took a lot of like communication for us. And for me, my biggest thing was I always felt like you were running.
Right.
Like I always was literally like we'd have a fight or a blow up and you'd be like, I don't need this. And I was like, oh my God, do you think I do? And it was just like a hard place for me to be in. For years, I just felt like we were like one argument away from a divorce.
Yeah.
And that for me, like women crave safety and security.
But you felt none of it.
And I felt none of that. And I'm like, you want me to cross the line sexually and all this other stuff. And yet I feel like I'm not in a safe place. And for women to feel like they can respect and cross the line, like we have to feel like safe. Like we just do. Like we have to feel like we're being respected. We have to feel safe. We have to be taken care of. Like all these things. And I wasn't feeling that. Even though as we started to produce more on a business level, I still was like, why do I not feel safe? And it was a question that I kind of had to like sit back. And I honestly felt like I was like, why is he always running? And I don't know specifically like what happened where you all of a sudden I was like, okay, he's here and our relationship's more stable and we can get in an argument and we can tell each other to fuck off or whatever it is. And at the same time, I know our marriage isn't going to end tomorrow, you know?
Well, I don't know 100%. I mean, this was a shift that had to happen in my mind, which was a communication with me. Like I had given myself permission for a very long time to just allow our relationship to be on eggshells. Mostly because I just literally couldn't commit to much. So I always was in a place where I was ready to bail. My whole life was that way from the time I was young. Like we were constantly moving, constant change, constantly move. So I just learned how to survive, and one of my survival mechanisms is when things would get hard or things would get spicy, I would disappear. I'd be like, all right, fuck it, burn the business to the ground or burn the relationship to the ground, and off I go. So I ended that in my mind. It was probably 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago, that I started really giving myself permission to that. And then it was probably 2.5 to 2 years ago where like the door doesn't exist. Like there is no back door for me at all.
Your business started to succeed more because I remember even in business I'd be like, just commit to something, like just commit to it, because I knew how hard of a worker you are, like almost like crazy, like just your mind's always going. And I just knew, I'm like, you just need to focus and commit to one thing. And whatever that one thing is, within time, you'll have success with it. And I find that with a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are like, they can't decide what they want to be when they grow up. And you're like, just fucking pick something.
Pick something, yeah,
pick
it'll
something,
work.
And getting better at it, you'll find, like, all of a sudden you have this love, appreciation, and passion for it because you've put in the hard work and the time and the effort. And all of a sudden, something that you were interested in, you're really fucking good at. And so that's kind of where you came with, like, you were always a good speaker and marketer, but then, like, you finally gave yourself permission to, like, just go to commit. And in committing to that, like, that's when you started to see huge results.
And that brings our show to a conclusion.
That was a weird conclusion.
No, it's a beautiful conclusion, which is we hit our time limit. We've also got to go. We've got other things we've got to get done today. But here's the piece I want you to catch inside of this. Direct communication itself is possible when you're committed. Direct communication is possible when you're committed. If you're not committed in a marriage, you're not committed to the person you're married to, then direct communication won't happen. If you are not committed inside a business or with your employees or with your team members or your clients, then direct communication is not going to happen. Commitment itself is the bridge or the gateway to actual direct communication. And direct communication changes lives. It changes marriages, and it changes our world, and we hope it will do the same for you. So as we wrap up today's show, a couple things. If you are not currently experiencing the powerful possibility inside of the Warrior's Way to Have It All, we'd encourage you to head on over to warriorbook.com. If you're a woman, you can head over to wakeupwarriorwoman.com and learn more on both sides of the equation with the Core 4 Have It All lifestyle. We'd love to invite you down that path to join and learn a little bit more about that with us. That's all we got for this week. My name is Garrett J. White, here with my beautiful wife and co-host, Danielle K. White, and we will talk to you next week.